All right. All right. Welcome everyone to day 3 of the summit. Apologies for the technical glitch that happened earlier a bit. We are currently trying to resolve the technical glitch. I'm not sure why the link wasn't like we can't sign up with the link. So our technical team is trying to sort that out. But as for now, we have enough participants at the moment, so we're going to begin our session. Any new participants coming in will be directly assigned to the breakout room, so worry not. For those participants who have been with us since day 1 and day 2, you will know that this is a parallel session running here. So can the host please move on to the next slide, please? We'll just show the participants the breakout for the session. All right, we're just waiting for the next slide to be up. All right. Okay. Before I begin a briefing regarding the session, can I please ask all the participants to turn on your camera and please put it on side by side mode. So I need everyone to turn on your webcams. All right. Switch all your webcams on, and please put your view as side by side view, just so that it's convenient for everyone to see the slides as well. All right. Let's just give you 1 minute. All right, we can start seeing faces now. Okay, so I think participants have, so for those who have just entered, please, all right, so for those who have just entered, please turn on all your cameras. Thank you. All right, so as this drill happens again, as for yesterday, for all the participants, if you're wanting to go into group 1, so for today, group 1 is MASAF, group 2 is NAMSA. So for group 1, the topic is about women's employability among Malaysian youth, and it's organized by Malaysian Students Association in France. And group 2 is arts and commerce relationship, can we better market our local products? So it's organized by the National Assembly of Malaysian Students in America, NAMSA. So again, for group 1, it will be MASAF, group 2 will be NAMSA. So once you have assigned please rename yourselves as per the group. So if you would like to go to group 1, put your name as group 1 and your name at the back. So if it's, let's say your name is Jennifer Smith. So your group 1 will be group 1 Jennifer, that will be your name, all right? So so rename yourself, and once you've done that, we'll give you a minute for that, and then we'll put you into respective breakout rooms, all right? So once you're in the breakout rooms, we will then straight away begin the parallel session for today. All right. So for those who have just entered the room, please turn on your webcams and rename yourself as per which group you would like to be in. If you would like to be in group 1, please put your name as group 1. If you would like to be in group 2, please put your name as group 2, all right? All right, I repeat again, group 1 will be for MASAF, group 2 will be for NAMSA. So give you a minute. So for those participants who's not familiar with putting side-by-side view, if you go on top of your camera, on your laptop, you can see the word view options. You click on that, and then you go down and see the word side-by-side mode and select that as your preferred viewing method. So it will make sure that your video is just at the side and it doesn't like be in the middle of everything. All right. So go to view options and click side-by-side mode. All right. Okay, the host will be now breaking you into rooms. All right. Okay. So just bear with us while we break you out into two different rooms. Hello. All right, I think we're having participants coming in now. All right. For those who are in this call right now, we will be proceeding with our next agenda for the day. There will be a mini speaker session by YB Limeling and also Dr. Amir, who is a psychiatrist at the university. We will begin that session at about 10:40. We're just waiting for the other participants to finish the parallel sessions, and then we will proceed with that session. All right. So for now, take a break, and yep, we'll be back. All right, ladies and gentlemen, dear participants, I would remind again to turn on your webcams at the moment. All right, turn on your webcams and put your, so if you turn on your webcams, go to your top, like on top of your screen, and there'll be a view options. Click on that and make sure it's on side-by-side mode, just to ensure that we're not getting disrupted by any photos. Sorry, any slides. All right. All right, so without further ado, okay, let's start our next speaker session. So our next speaker session will be a discussion on youth mental health, an issue that is of paramount importance, especially in these times of uncertainty. So joining us today will be Dr. Amir Siddiq and YB Lim Yi Wei. So let me just give you a brief introduction of our speakers. So Dr. Amir Siddiq is a consultant psychiatrist at an associate professor in psychiatry at the University of Malaya, as well as our second speaker for today will be YB Lim Yi Wei, who is the Selangor State Assemblywoman for N35 Kampung Tunku. Welcome, Dr. Amir and YB Lim. The session today would be mainly discussing about youth mental health and why decriminalizing suicide matters. So Dr. Amir Siddiq is an experienced psychiatrist whose expertise include mood disorders, anxiety, and alcohol-related problems, while YB Lim will be giving us a brief insight as well as on efforts that can enable a legislation change. Through this session, we aim to shed a light on how decriminalizing suicide, a topic with MSGA's advocacy department, has published a joint statement on earlier this year in 2020. So without further ado, let us welcome our speakers for today, Dr. Amir and YB Lim. Hi, Doctor. Hi, YB. I think the host is muted. Can the host allow them to speak? I think, all right, I think try unmuting. Will it be possible now, or does it still say the host?
Yes, hi.
All right, I'm good. Yeah.
All right, okay. Sorry about that. Okay, before we start, I'll just put on some polls, all right? We're gonna put on polls on our page, and then we're gonna see what the participants think about it. So can the host start the poll? All right. So the polls have started. So can all the participants vote?
Okay, have we got the polls in?
I think we've got the polls in, yep. All right.
Wow.
So this is the rough idea of the participants, like the polls results here, showing here. We'll debunk these polls later in the end of the session. So we'll begin now. All right, so let me just begin with some few questions. So what are the types of mental health disorders common among youths? I will direct this question to Dr. Amir first.
Hi there. Thanks a lot for inviting me on this MSGA Summit. It's really nice to be here this Sunday morning. As you can see, I've got my Befrienders t-shirt on here, just in support of them. But I think let's go back to the question that Avinash was asking. What are the types of mental health issues that are commonly seen in youth and among Malaysian adults? It's going to be stress and sleep disorders or sleep issues. Yeah, that's the first thing. And when we're talking about mental illnesses, which are when the symptoms are prolonged and they are accumulative with other symptoms, then the disorders that we often see among youth is going to be depression, anxiety, and to a lesser extent, now we're seeing a rise in issues related to technology. So it'll be things like internet addiction a little bit, or addiction in general. So we're seeing that coming through a little bit more now.
All right. Thank you, doctor, for that. So when you've discussed it, when you're mentioning about all these current issues surrounding the youth at the moment, can I just have an insight from YB Lim? What are the current initiatives that the government is actually implementing or actually doing in order to combat this issue?
So it has to be quite clear that I'm from the Selangor state government and not, the federal government side. On the Selangor state government side, for our 2019 budget, we allocated 1 million to mental health, which covers a wide range of services, mostly focused on counseling. So we have 4 pusat counseling where people can walk in Selangor. That's the first. And we've also been focused on putting out publicity awareness collateral on mental health. The mental health portfolio is under the portfolio of the Women's Exco, Dr. Siti Maria. So around throughout 2019, she organized this thing called Carnival 3W, which was more focused on women, but each Carnival 3W was organized with each local council in Selangor, so there are 12 of them, and each of them included, a small mental health component where possible. Yeah.
All right, thanks, YB.
Yep.
All right, so the next question would be, so what is the current state of mental health among youths, like at this very time? And what do you think that the public, basically the Malaysian society's view on this, like what are the perspective on mental health? Like what do they think people are actually going through at this point of time? And what also do you think the stigmas surrounding it? And what are the reasons mainly why people do not really discuss about mental health at this very, like, I mean, in general, why do you think the public don't really bring up this mental health topic at a very often period?
So who are you asking the question to there, Amish?
To Dr. Amir.
Okay, I think first of all, let me just help out YB Lim. She's right in saying that there are lots of efforts done in Selangor State, and I think it's quite progressive that way. I also concur that there've been about ringgit 1 million that have been invested, and if you're part of the Selangor State, or at least if you've been on Facebook and seen the 3W, over the last, I think, 3 months during the main MCO, there was a program where we actually spoke a lot about mental health, which was aired, and I think the reach was actually quite good. And it was done in Malay. So it's actually trying to get a broader audience in the discussion of mental health. On the ministry side, which I actually consult, there have been a lot of efforts that have actually been done over the number of years. Previously, we've also had the Let's Stop Minda Sehat campaign, which if you didn't know, in September this year, we will be celebrating World Suicide Day on the 10th of September. And then subsequently in October, World Mental Health Day on the 10th of October. And on the ministry side, we are going to have sort of a national campaign for the next 2 months on issues related to mental health. And I think if you are cognizant of what's happening at the moment, there are lots of potential problems that we'll be facing once September comes on. And I know some of you here are not actually paying your bills, for example, but your parents or even yourself, if you're on this thing, will be starting to pay your bills come September and moving forward. And therefore, there's going to be a lot of financial pressure for some of us here who might have recently lost their jobs or having trouble looking for employment. And if you didn't know, financial health is very much related to mental health. So there's a lot of effort being done on the government side, particularly Ministry of Education, not so much, but health and finance, in trying to mitigate a bit of these complications. And of course, every state has their own efforts as well that has been put in place. So one of the ones that has been recommended, which I I would like to highlight that the ministry is doing at the moment is to continue with the counseling service, the telecounseling services that we had before the past. So if you remember when we were going through the MCO, there was a lot of talk about something called Talian Kasih 15999. There was a lot of talk about befrienders, and there was also this talk about CPRC having a helpline for those that were struggling either with a mental health issue or domestic violence issue. These lines have continued as long as the MCO is continuing. And we know that recently it's been announced that it's going to continue till the end of the year. I think this is really important because moving forward, we have not really seen the full impact or the mental health impact of this particular pandemic. So there are efforts being done on this. Now, going back to your highly loaded third question there, Avnish, I wasn't sure which one to latch on, but I suspect it's related to awareness and stigma. Again, there are lots of efforts being done on our side, and I know that we have not been able to maybe reach everyone out there because there are many pockets of our society. The languages are different, the culture is different, the issues depending on where you are at is also different, and we're cognizant of that. But at the same time, maybe the mechanism that we want to share our information might not be able to reach all those deep pockets. However, in saying that, over the last 5 years, I believe that there has been an increase in mental health awareness. And if there's something good about this COVID pandemic, I think it's really pushed a lot of discussion about mental health, particularly globally. And of course, sadly, I have to say that we hear about it, but we're not acting fast enough. And why do I say that? Because as I've mentioned just now at the beginning, that we are expecting financial health to be an issue. And this is not like a global crisis or an economic crisis where you wake up in the morning and then suddenly you see the stock market crash in the US, followed by maybe Asia, and then Malaysia will be, of course, as part of this big global network, will also have some financial strain. This is a situation where we have predicted or predicting things will get bad at Q4 in Q2. And yet maybe the efforts, at least from my point of view, have not been enough, I think, by all of us to mitigate this. The good thing, as I've mentioned just now, is at least the telecounseling lines are on. But if you have been watching social media, I don't know if you've seen enough awareness or noise about these lines still being on. And that itself is going to be where I think we need to do a lot more work in our awareness campaigns. And more importantly, we need to do the work to target the Malaysian as a whole, because as I've mentioned just now, there are lots of people out there with different languages, different cultures, and we need to reach out to them because mental health does not care whether you're white or black, rich or poor, smart or not that smart. It doesn't really care who you are. When it comes, it will come, and we want you to be able to find the help that you need when that time comes. So I think in saying that, there's a lot of efforts or a lot of opportunities still for us to make a difference. But going back to why people don't want to come forward, well, there's a lot of misconceptions, which I hope that myself and YB Lim will be able to share with you. There's issues with about, do we have access to mental health care? Is it affordable? Who are these people that you want to see if you need to find that help? What are the types of mental illnesses are there? Are they all the same? If you were to see somebody like myself, will you be automatically labeled to be crazy? Like these are the kind of issues that I think we need to still mitigate or bust in a way. And of course, like I said, we're having this discussion in English, so most of us here will be very proficient in also reading about this. But then there's other languages. If you go to Sabah, Sarawak, for example, the languages I can't even speak, and they need the same kind of coverage on this issue, like we're doing here in the west side of the country.
All right, thanks, Dr. Amir, on that. All right, so my next question will be directed to YB Lim. All right, so YB, in terms of the Selangor state at this current pandemic, post-pandemic situation, has there been like any initiatives directed to youth, like focusing on youth mental health?
So as Dr. Amir mentioned, we are going to be continuing with the online series of videos focusing on mental health as a whole. Other than that, actually the Selangor state government will focus on mitigating the financial impact, because one thing is that, financial impact is something that is very visible, and it can be felt immediately by the families that are affected, which actually, I'd like to add on to Dr. Amir's point, about the stigma. One of the issues with, mental health awareness and talking about mental health is that oftentimes mental disorders can be quite invisible, and it only takes, it takes a long period of time before the symptoms start to manifest themselves as physical symptoms. So a lot of people don't understand it, and when a close friend or family member starts behaving in a way that is difficult for them to attribute to a physical illness, then it becomes scary. It becomes unknown to them.
All right, thank you so much, YB, for that. So following up to that, the next part of this discussion will be focusing on the decriminalization of suicide and how mental health and how we can reduce the stigmas on mental health. So this question will be directed to Dr. Amir first. So Dr. Amir, do you think that decriminalizing suicide would be able to assist in reducing stigmas surrounding mental health issues?
I was really hoping that you're going to ask all these tough questions to YB Lim. Give me all the feel good kind of questions. So I think first of all, it's really vital that we, I saw the poll just now, and there's like what 50 odd people that were 50%, 50+% of people that were keen for it to be decriminalized. About 30, I think, or something that was not so keen, and then there's a small group of people, about 20 or something, that were not so sure. I think we've got to be very clear that we're not encouraging people to commit suicide. For those who were thinking that we shouldn't decriminalize it, I think what we're trying to do is move away from a punitive mechanism towards more of a help access mechanism. I think that's really important for us to first highlight. Now, at the moment, some people, knowing that the law criminalizes you if you had attempted self-harm, automatically pushes people away, especially young people, from actually reaching out. And I want to assure you that nobody in his right mind actually goes and commits suicides out of purpose. If there were cases like this, and we know that suicide as a science itself has a psychological science, a social science, and also a medical science within that particular discussion, because if you look at suicide, especially written by Durkheim, there are many types of suicide. But the ones that we're seeing commonly in our country, in most countries, is that people, for some reason, are pushed across the wall to a certain point where they're unable to cope, and therefore there is no way out but to take their life or to harm themselves. And often at this point of time, they are often quite ill, most of the time. And the most common mental illness that is associated with suicide is going to be, number one, depression. Number two, it's going to be schizophrenia. Now, for the first one, if you know about the illness depression, it is a state of being. It's not just like when your girlfriend left you and you felt a bit depressed, yeah? It's not when your boyfriend decided to stand you up and you felt a bit down and depressed. That's not depression in the clinical sense. It is the state of being where everything and anything that you do is going to have a negative connotation to it. And therefore, these people, during that period of time when they're having depression, major depressive disorder, if you want to classify it as a name, will be feeling hopeless and worthless, and they feel that life is not worth anything at all. Even though all of us as friends and family can see so much positives in that person's life, they can't see it. And therefore, suicide becomes something that they might entertain and might accidentally do. Yeah, like I said just now, people don't intentionally do these things. They might accidentally do because they're unable to cope with the illness that they're going through. Now, the second group of people is going to be people maybe with schizophrenia who are untreated, where they might have psychosis, for example, hallucinations of voices telling them to do something to themselves. So if you look at these particular two situations, to criminalize somebody for a medical condition like this is really unfair. And to put them in jail because they were ill is also unfair. And I think on those two respects that we are pushing for the decriminalization of this action so that individuals that need the help will be able to come forward without any fear of being reprimanded to receive that help. As I mentioned just now, the rates of people who act on these things without a mental health condition is actually very small. In fact, for suicide itself, there are not a lot of people that are actually doing acts of suicide out there. But the few people that might do it because they're not well, sort of unfairly treated when they come forward. You know, I think this is the basic crux of why we are pushing at least for the decriminalization of this particular situation.
Thank you, Dr. Amir, for that. All right, so my next my next part of this question will be directed to YB Lim. So YB, do you think, I mean, not do you think, do you see any legislative related, so when we're talking about decriminalization of suicide, in terms of the Selangor state government, has this been, has this question or has this current issue been sparked at this very moment, or maybe throughout the current situation?
No, because the decriminalization of suicide is governed under the Penal Code, Section 309. So what the code entitles is that anyone who attempts to commit suicide or does any act, towards the commission of such offense can be punished with imprisonment, which may extend to 1 year, or with fine, or with both. So that is actually, strictly to amend it would be under Parliament. So what we are trying to do, I think, is to, with regards to mental health as a whole, we want to arrest it on both ends. So earlier we talked about awareness. That's, arresting, I mean, not in a literal police sense, but, stopping those and capturing those who may be exhibiting an inkling of a mental disorder to go and get treatment. That's at the less extreme end. And then on the extreme end, we want to be able to again capture those who might be considering suicide to actually be able to receive help when they make the decision intentionally or unintentionally to commit suicide. So however, I need to stress that the decriminalization of suicide can only be done through amending the law in Parliament, which is why I have actually called for a moratorium on prosecuting attempted suicides. So the current status, YB Kelvin Yee, who's the MP of Bandar Kuching, has been quite vocal about this in Parliament. And under the PH government previously, the former law minister, YB VK Liu, he actually announced that as early as December 2019, the Attorney General's Chamber had told him that amendments to the Penal Code 309, Section 309, could be tabled as early as June. However, because we had a change in government, that did not happen. And when YB Dr. Kelvin Yee asked in Parliament this July sitting, he was informed by the current law minister that there were still some aspects of law to be studied. But what we feel is that with September coming in and the moratoriums expiring, there is a need to halt for the time being the prosecution of attempted suicides, because going back to what Dr. Amir said earlier, financial health does affect mental health, and we are going to see more people in desperate straits. And if they choose to resort to suicide, we want to make sure that they are not punished for it. Hence the call, a moratorium on prosecution of attempted suicides.
All right. Thanks, YB. Just a follow-up question. What do you think is actually the main um, sort of what's the word here? The main sort of issue or the main. So when you're talking about decriminalization of suicide in the parliament, right, and also how to amend the law and stuff. What's the main issue surrounding by why can't this be done right away? Like what is the like underlying issue behind this?
So I think some of the complications are a general hesitance to change the status quo. It's easier to stick with the status quo. The second thing is um, I would say a bit of okay, I don't know how to use the word other than iffiness, because okay, that's not a very professional word, but general discomfort, because suicide can be a very sensitive topic among certain cultures and religions. So there hasn't been a willingness in a way to explore that. I think the government does not want to look into that so far. And I would say that maybe it's just not one of the priorities of the government right now, lah. That is not the priority of the government right now.
Do you believe
Difficult questions, Avnesh. You've got to keep them coming. This is the kind of questions that we want to ask. But I think I think going back to your question, I mean, the poll that you put out just now, I think might be able to give a bit of a signal on all of us here as well. For those who answered yes, what were your main reasons for answering yes? For those who answered no, what were the hesitations that you had in answering no? And of course, for those who are not sure whether this is even an issue that you even thought about before you came onto this forum. So I think this is the kind of questions that I suspect our lawmakers are also facing when this thing is being tabled on. There are lots of other issues, as we all know, happening across the country. And then suddenly you want to table something like this. You've got to have a certain awareness about the issue and why it's important, but you also have to have a certain prejudice about why you might not want to support. So I think the question that you pose actually is a question that we all need to reflect in ourselves. And after this particular discussion, if you were to put that poll in again, it's also nice to see whether people have changed their views, because really this is the kind of conversation that needs to be done, not only just here, but also out there, because the same kind of prejudice, fears, anxiety that you might be having at the moment, just at the thought of being part of this discussion about whether we should or we should not decriminalize suicide. The word suicide itself has a stigma on its own. This is the kind of question that we need our lawmakers to also ask themselves when they're trying to say that yes and no vote.
Yeah, sorry, I wanted to add in a third point. This one is more on the legal side. A potential complication that I think they considered also was in terms of enabling suicide. So one of the more famous cases happened, I think, in the US a couple of years ago, where there was this couple. I think they were in high school, and basically the guy was not in a very good state of mind, and the girlfriend actually sent him, was very relentless in her messaging towards him. So it was an element of, there were elements of gaslighting where she tried to manipulate his state of mind and basically make him think that she was the only one who cared for him. But basically the text messages escalated to her basically telling him that it would be just so much better if you committed suicide. You would feel so much better. You would be able to release yourself from the pain. And eventually the guy did commit suicide. And the girlfriend was prosecuted for it when they discovered the text messages. So that's also one of the complications that needs to be considered in the amendment of Act 309. It might not be as common. This is a very unusual case where the girlfriend did pursue, and did actively encourage the spiraling of this boy's state of mind. But that is also a legal complication that has to be considered.
All right, thanks YB on that. So I just have a last quick question. The question is surrounding around youth and also around all these youth organizations, for example, like MSGA and all other youth organizations out there. Most of the youth organization nowadays, right? Like when it comes to talking about suicide, mental health, all these issues, what we would do is that post on social media, put a campaign, run a webinar, but sometimes the effect isn't really tangible. Like you can't really see a direct effect directly. Like maybe you can have like maybe hundreds of posts or like a week of mental health awareness week. But what do you actually think that would be the direct or maybe a better tangible approach to ensure that the message can be spread directly out there to all the youths? So this question I would direct to Dr. Amir first, and then we'll ask YB Lim on her perception.
I was thinking I was gonna wait on on YB Lim. Maybe I'll get YB Lim to answer first because I think it's related to some of the work that she's recently done, and then I could add on. I think it's a good question.
Yeah.
YB.
All right, YB.
I guess the key is constant sustained outreach. Like you mentioned, Avinash, you mentioned so very rightly earlier, just making sure that the lines of help are a constant reminder in people's head. Actually, one of the things that I really liked during YB Dr. Wan Aziza and YB Hannah Yo's time was how they promoted the Talian Kasih 15999. That was in related to baby dumping, but what they did was I thought really good. So before when you went to a cinema, after that they would have a 20-second ad about 15999, and in every R&R stop in the washrooms, they would actually have a poster stuck on there to remind women not to whom might be considering baby dumping, not to dump and to actually seek help from 15999. So I think that effort similarly on mental health has to be sustained to remind people that helplines are available, and also where they can walk in to seek help. And it has to come from various segments of society. It can't be just us talking in a webinar. It has to be at a very tackled at a very local level. But of course, it takes a lot of slow education and awareness building. So, for example, in my Dune, I had this bright idea of actually trying to get all the mosques in my area to maybe go for some mental health training. And so when we gathered the leaders of the mosque, and then we talked to them about, testing the idea, do you want to, know more about mental health, since you already do so much counseling for those who go to the mosque? Some of them were a bit open, some of them were questioning the need for it, just like this conversation, just like the polls we had. So it's just a slow, long, awareness building process. But it has to be done, and it has to be done at a very local level. Communities, residents associations would be very useful for that. And I think, Dr. Amir actually can tell you more because he has been involved in a project in Subang Jaya. Yeah, so I'll, toss the ball to Dr. Amir now.
I think there's lots of things that we all can do to begin with. Number one, I fully agree that we need more awareness, and what you guys are doing as youth in the social media scene is actually very, very important. You might not think it's that important. You might not think people are listening, but people are listening. They're watching. And again, we are an aging society. So there's going to be a pocket of people that are now aged, and there'll be a growing young group of people. And these are the issues that we are all facing moving forward. And I think if you're not going to champion for the issues that you believe in, like for example, I believe in mental health issues, then nobody else is going to do it for you. This is what my mentor, Prof. Hussein, used to tell me when I was a trainee. But I think more importantly, at that point of time, we didn't have the kind of mediums that you guys had. What I've learned along the way is that, as Avinash has mentioned, you can do all the awareness campaigns out there, but you also need to engage with the stakeholders. And I think recently there was this boost for Parliament Digital, where youth groups would be asking questions that they think is important. I think that's really important. There's a lot of now new engagement by younger NGO groups like Minda, like Souls Health, like Miasa in the country, which are asking the questions on not only the rhetorics, but getting the stakeholders to answer these questions. And as a result of that, the ministry has actually come out with a big master plan. There's a bit of input from these NGOs. Now, if you didn't do that, they wouldn't have even bothered, to be fair, right? So you really need to get them on board. You know, for some of us here pushing in our local kawasan, you know, people like YB Lim here and YB Michelle, for example, Fahmi Fazil on another side, have also put the mental health agenda. I'm also aware that YB Khairi in his capacity is also quite keen on this. So you need to get your voice heard for certain groups of these people so that they can actually push it across for all of us. But you know, the sustained input from all of you in all mediums, including TikTok, which I don't know how to use, to be fair, is also quite useful in getting your voice, you know, heard. So this is what I would suggest. And also, I think moving forward, you know, as the director of UMCARES, for example, we're really pushing for volunteerism among youth groups, students in particular, because I think moving forward, the companies are looking for that. And if you've got a certain passion for a certain issue, whether it is STEM science for women, whether it is mental health, whether it is, I don't know, diabetes, if you have family members with diabetes, I think you should push it out when you're still studying and get involved, because it really makes a huge impact in the bigger scheme of things. You need lots of voices to actually make the massive impact that we want, especially for this issue like mental health, which is highly stigmatized, often forgotten, and often thought to be not so important until somebody loses a family member or friend, and then they start wanting to do something about it, which of course all of us do not wish anyone to go through.
Yeah, I think, you know, just adding on to the last point, you know, to Dr. Amir's last point, what we as youth can do is to take the information that, you know, we see from advocacy groups online and also bring it to our families. I think, you know, it's very important to remember that you yourself can be a key influencer to your family members, especially in their local, you know, your local languages, your local dialects. One of the things that I thought was nice coming out from, you know, the earlier phases of the MCO was a lot of you know, leaders coming out to speak about all these, you know, SOPs: wear a mask, wash hands, keep social distancing, in local dialects and languages. So, for example, Joanna Henley Rampas from Warisan, she did a video in Kadazan. Some did videos in Hakka, you know, reminding older people to follow the SOP. So similarly, when it comes to talking about mental health, I think, you know, I like to encourage youth to actually, you know, talk to your family members about it, because you might never know, you know, an older family member has gone through it, and the other, you know, family members of that generation still struggle to make sense of you know, what has happened in the family. And you could also provide some insight, some awareness, and also maybe even some healing to the family. Yeah. And that can be quite powerful.
Thanks, YB, for that. I think we've just got a question from someone. So this question is directed to Dr. Amir.
Oh,
so
Hard ones.
So the question is like, so I'll just read to you the question, all right? So it says, what do you think of the romanticization of mental illness in mass media, such as movies, social media, among youth? Do you think there will be any repercussions among Malaysian youth, such as the misuse or diversion of resources from those who really require it?
Yeah, well, definitely. That's why we have advocated, I think, last year, and a paper is being published by the end of the year on the media's role in reporting suicide. It should not be romanticized. I think that's the first thing. There doesn't really need to be any need for sensationalizing of suicide. For every suicide that happens, about 9 other people are affected by it. There is a family member that's actually grieving as a result of this loss, and let's not forget friends and other people that have known this person. So definitely there is a need for a bit more responsible media reporting. And again, I think last year there was already a council for the media groups looking into this issue that was pushed by my colleague, Dr. Chan Lai Fong from UKM, and another colleague from Nottingham University, Malaysia, on this particular issue. So I think you're right. There is a fear for romanticizing, but again, there are people looking to this area to ensure that relevant stakeholders play their part in also reducing the risk of people committing or thinking about doing such an act.
All right, thanks, Dr. Amir, on that. I'm sure the next question will be directed to YB Lim. So YB, why do you think some youth and individuals are against repealing Section 309? Is it just religion? And what is different in Singapore, which has abolished the exact same section a few years ago?
Okay, that's a hard question because I wasn't prepared for the Singapore, the Singapore part. I think one of the reasons is because it's uncomfortable to change the status quo, and in some cultures and religions, suicide is seen as something very very serious, almost like a sin, because the basis of a lot of religions is that your God has given you life, and we should treasure it and live our lives to the fullest purpose, and if you are very religious, then you live your lives to the fullest purpose of your God. And an act of suicide is seen as throwing that all away. So I think it opens up very uncomfortable feelings, and also uncomfortable conversations where you suddenly face with this question of, what if I think that life is meaningless? What if I think that even living for God is meaningless? And that's very scary to certain people and also certain cultures. But I think religion can play its role also in tackling mental health. In that, religion can be a tool, a source of comfort, but also to a certain point, religion also has to acknowledge that mental health is just like physical health, and if you are not well, then you have to see a doctor at some point. So they can go hand in hand, and that's also one of the messages that we want to put out. And I think advocacy groups also have tried to put out that religion and mental health, getting treatment for mental health, they are not mutually exclusive. But it's uncomfortable. And in certain societies, it's almost unthinkable. That's why.
All right, thanks YB on that. So the last question, it's really, it's a very interesting one. I'll just hear from Dr. Amir and YB Lim, your perspectives on that. So the question is, for a patient who is at a stage where there is no quality of life and no recovery for their illness, such as untreatable mental illness, do you believe Malaysia should legalize euthanasia as a form of assisted suicide? So I'll start with Dr. Amir.
Well, I think first of all, in terms of mental illness, there are lots of, number one, treatment for the mental illnesses. Often when we talk about euthanasia, it's going to be incurable cancer, or maybe, for example, illnesses like severe dementia, where that person has lost all bodily function, and also personality. And often it's going to be related to those. It's been very uncommon for untreatable mental illness to be lumped in for euthanasia. I think there is a case for all of these conversations to come in, but I think there needs to be a conversation of it to happen first before any of us decide to act on a certain idea. I think it goes also for the one that Faris had mentioned just now about 309. And this is why I ask all of you to think in yourself when you answered just now whether you wanted to decriminalize suicide or think about suicide as a positive or negative, ask yourself why you felt that way, and then do a bit more reading and see whether your thinking is still the same. Most oftentimes than not, we are going to be in a way blinded by our own prejudice, and therefore it sort of affects the way that we make a decision. So going back to this euthanasia, should it be legalized or not? I personally think that a discussion should be done by it. Often the people that will be discussing this will be the anesthetics or anesthesia group, because they are the ones that might need to do such an act if this thing was legalized in whichever country that is available at the moment.
Thanks, Dr. Amir, on that.
Yeah,
Yep.
I would also add to that, besides the anesthetics, group, another group that would have to discuss this would be palliative care.
Yeah, palliative care. I'm sorry.
Palliative care.
All right. I think we've covered that question. YB, do you have anything to add on that?
Not that much, but I don't know if we're ready for that conversation yet. I agree with Dr. Amir in that sense that mental illness can be treated. So our focus should be on making access to treatment available, making access affordable. And I think euthanasia should be considered only when, like the questionnaire actually legitimately asks, when there is no quality of life and no hope of recovery. But even then, also it brings along a lot of legal complications. For example, the consent of the patient in the first place to be subject to euthanasia. And that also, brings back what I mentioned earlier, suicide enabling. That is also one of the other complications.
All right, thanks YB on that. So before we end this session, I would just like to ask Dr. Amir and YB Lim, is there any advice you would like to give to all the youths around here in this webinar at this moment? And for those that will be viewing this webinar later on, what would be the main takeaway advice that you would like to give to all the youths? So I'll ask Dr. Amir first.
Well, first of all, I just wanted to acknowledge Jay Sharubin for asking that question. I can see you're a Gucci warrior there. I think what's important, first, I've been advocating, or we've been pushing out for something called Let's Stop Minda Sehat, which is a campaign that we launched. Now, TALK, I think, gives a little bit of an idea of what we would like to advocate. Number one is to tell someone your problem. If you have something that you need to share, and this, for youth, often looks at understanding emotions, identifying emotions, and then reaching out if you feel that your emotions are something you can't control. A is asking for help. And again, help is available out there. L, and I think this is the most important for peers, yeah? If someone reaches out to you, listen without judgment. People often don't necessarily want an answer, but when they've asked you for help, often sometimes they might just want a hearing ear or someone just to hear them out, yeah? And K, which I think is also equally vital, is actually know where to find that help if your friend or family needs that particular support. So, you all have a small part to play. I often tell my own medical students and also people out there that, when we talk about K, know where to find help. Your role could be as little as identifying that this person is struggling and giving them maybe a web page that they can go, or opening up that web page for them to read, or making that phone call if it's, like befrienders, for example, so that they can talk to somebody, or bringing them to the hospital, but then allowing them to go and see the clinic themselves, or making that extra effort by actually parking your car, bringing that person to the clinic, registering to that clinic. And of course, the final stage is to do it all and be with that patient in the clinic setting as well. So your part can be in the various stages of this, but you need to know where to find help first and what help is available. I did an interview with BFM, I think 2 days ago, and there's still people that don't really know about the help that we have. We have in Malaysia counselors, we have clinical psychologists, we have psychiatrists, we have general practitioners, we have social workers that also can help. And we've also got what Jay had mentioned, telecounseling, or at least hotlines that people can call in. 15999 is one of them. Befriend Us is another one of them. And if you're aware of Souls Health, Malaysian Mental Health Association, and MIASA, they also have helplines that people can call. So I know some of you here are not from Kuala Lumpur. There are also local NGOs in your vicinity, which you can also reach out to as well. And like YB had mentioned, in Selangor State, there are already 4 helplines as well that you can get on. But you need to know where to find that help. And again, this is where your strengths are. When you do find that help, post it away so lots of other people know where to find that help together as well.
Thanks, Dr. Amir. YB, do you have anything to pass on to the participants right here?
Totally agree with what Dr. Amir said about, you can be an influencer. I think the important thing is, always, I think these are challenging times. Always keep your eyes and ears and heart open to friends who are struggling. And I think, one thing that has to be debunked a bit about, telecounseling is that you don't necessarily have to have, a diagnosed mental disorder to call into any of the helplines. I have friends who have called, like helplines like Befrienders, and they have told me that for a while, they just called and they say, 1-2 sentences and then sat for maybe 15 minutes without saying anything. And the people manning the line will stay on the line with you. So you don't have to know the extent of the problem that you're facing. You don't need to know the name of, any possible mental disorder, but as long as you're feeling mental distress, do use the helplines. It can be things as simple as, I haven't been able to get over my mother's death and it's been 5 or 6 months. It can be and it can be things like, I can't sleep every night, it's been happening for 2 or 3 weeks. It can be just anything. So don't be afraid to use those lines. And I think, in these times, look out for each other, especially for friends who are exhibiting signs of being troubled. One of the experiences I've had dealing with a friend who is has constant suicidal ideations is keeping tabs on my friend's social media. So there was one stage where it got quite bad, and everyone was looking for this friend, but I happened to tap onto my friend's social media, and there was a picture of a location which I knew because I had been there talking to this friend throughout, my friend's suicidal feelings. So I, got out of my house, got into the car, went to that location, and true enough, my friend was there, and we managed to, talk through the situation and calming down a bit. So your attention matters, and keeping an eye out on each other matters. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, Dr. Amir. Thanks, YB Lim. I think the session has come to an end. Yep. Thank you so much for speaking. And also, we'll definitely, on behalf of MSGA, we do advocate a lot on mental health issues, and definitely will continue our initiatives to do so. And we hope to have you both again in our future webinars or even our future summit next year in person, hopefully, not online. All right. Thank you so much for taking your time on a Sunday to have a chat with us. Yep. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you,
Thanks.
everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye. All right. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, we'll now be proceeding to our next session for the day. So it will be our closing keynote speech by Dr. Mahalakshmi Arjunan. So Dr. Mahalakshmi is a renowned science communicator in the agrobiotechnology field and founder of the first science newspaper in Malaysia, the Petri Dish. Dr. Mahalakshmi is also going to be speaking a lot today on the importance of youth empowerment in the advancement of Malaysia. To be touching on current issues such as the new normals in employment and how to weather in the pandemic. So without further ado, I'm sure Dr. Mahal is currently in the call. Dr. Maha, can you
Yes,
hear?
I am.
Hi, Dr. Maha, how are you?
Hi, Avnish. I'm good.
That's good. All right, I'm passing, okay, pass to you now.
Okay, thank you. Hi, everyone. Okay, can I share my slides?
Yes, sure.
Okay.
I think you can just click, if you have any issue, just let me know.
Okay. Okay, you should be able to see my slides. I'm putting it on slide mode now.
Yep, all right, yep.
Okay, so how's everyone? I came to the tail end of the previous talk on mental health, which is certainly a very serious issue. And I think it's so important that all of us help each other, keep a lookout, and also mental health, to me, it's really, really important. It's just as important as physical health. And this is where, we put we have so much of hope, and we have got so much of desire, but we must always strike a balance. I'm going to talk about all these things, but what I'm going to do, it's still not on slide mode yet, right? What I'm going to do is I'm going to use a lot of examples from my own journey, because I think it's very important for younger generation to understand that anyone you see there, they have gone through a lot, because what you see is only the tip of the iceberg. What you don't see, the journey is as big as the iceberg itself. I'm sure you've seen these types of analogies before, but that is really true. The truth. So I'm going to use a lot of guidance and what I've gone through, so you could use that as a guiding principle, but also always remember everyone's life is different. Everyone is given different. It's not like an exam where everyone gets the same exam paper. Everyone in life, we are given different questions, different challenges, different success, failures, and hope, and everything is different. What we could do is see someone else and adapt from what others are doing. There's nothing that you can cut and paste from someone else's life, although it may look so good, but it has to adapt to what you are going through. Now, I would say I'm a big advocate that young people like all of you are the hope and the future, and at the same time you have your own hope and future as well. So how do you navigate so that you can strike a balance, and at the same time you feel that you are doing something with your life? I'm sure the past 2 or 3 days has been very fruitful. There's a lot of takeaway messages, so I hope to end this session with a big bang. I hope so. Now, what I would say is that every one of you now must ask yourself, I think gone are the days when we ask children, what's your ambition? This is a very common phrase that we ask children, what's your ambition? And then the child will say, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a lawyer, I want to be an engineer, scientist, and teacher, and everything. But to me, the ambition is nothing. What we should ask children, and what you should ask yourself, is what is that you want to contribute? What value do you want to bring? So forget the ambition. You can be a lawyer. Anyone can be a lawyer. In fact, anyone can be a doctor. But as a doctor, what is that you're bringing to the table? Are you going to be just one of the doctors among the thousands of doctors? Or do you want to, within your career frame, within your shelf life of your career, do you want to bring in new things to the table? Do you want to leave a legacy? Do you want to venture into something that someone has not done, but that is really, really needed in your sector, in your field? So I think this is what should be driving force for youth like all of you. And to me, this has been my driving force. So I think I can just go on without my slides, but I just want to tell you that I've got this passion to fill in the voids. And to me, doing something for the first time is always my passion. And it's not just doing something for the first time, and the largest, like getting into the Malaysian record book for the biggest pizza, and I don't know what happens to the pizza next. I don't know what happens to the biggest rangoli, all the flowers and the rice used in the rangoli. To me, it's being the first or bringing value that is really needed. So filling in the void where it is really required, filling in a hole where the hole is creating a problem and you want to fill that hole in. So find areas like that. And these areas make sure it aligns to your strength, to your passion, to your love, to your skill, and then say, this is what my niche is. I found something where I can contribute. So start doing something like that. So with that introduction, we are tomorrow is our Hari Merdeka, and we are all talking about Anak Malaysia. To me, I think I've got a few messages that I want to convey to all of you. My first message, I think I want to start with this, which is very, very close to my heart. This type of pictures should not be there just for Hari Merdeka, just for National Day, Hari Malaysia, or for Deepawali, for Hari Raya, for Chinese New Year, where we, Petronas and everyone puts together nice things to see. Now, it should not just be a commercial, but we should leave it every day. I come from the era 70s. I went to school in the 70s. And during that time, we were all sharing food. We did not have any suspicion about someone else going to someone else's house, because for sure I know if I go to a Malay friend's house, they're not going to serve me beef. And when the Malay friends comes to my house, I know that I should not serve them even chicken that is non-halal. It has to be slaughtered in a certain way. So we just took it for granted that we understood each other. There's no need to ask, is this halal? Does it have beef? So I think we should come back to that era where we trust each other. It's not about tolerating, but it's about respecting. I don't have to tolerate you. I want to respect you. I want to appreciate you. So I want to understand. So we should be open to understanding each other's culture, history, religion. There's nothing stopping us from learning someone else's religion. I did for the first time, I said about the first things that I did. For the first time, I did an ulama and scientist dialogue so that the ulama understands what is biotechnology, how do we genetically modify things so that they can make informed decisions on their fatwa. So I learned a lot through that. I did a series of ulama and scientist dialogue until the international level, until my resolution is now used as a reference by the Muslim countries. So it doesn't stop us from knowing someone else's religion. It's just, to me, it's all knowledge and appreciation. So I really hope people like you will change the current culture, will change the current landscape and the climate in Malaysia. To me, I am completely colorblind when it comes to race. I've had mentored thousands of students like all of you in biotechnology, in entrepreneurship, in science communication, in CV writing, in interview skills, and I don't see color. Whenever I'm put in front, I just want to give the best. I don't care who is in front of me. They are all just like my children, and they're the future generation of Malaysia, and I want the best for Malaysia. So this is what I believe, and I hope this type of spirit is among all of us, especially people like you who are going to drive Malaysia in the future. Now, the next is, some attitude that this can wait until I finish school. Oh, I want to do some volunteering work. Oh, it can wait until I finish college. I want to do this, but it can wait until I get a degree. I want to teach children. It can wait. So there's no waiting. While you are in school, while you are in the university, you can take up so many things. And these days, there are so many opportunities, and there's no reason for someone to say, I didn't know that, because everything is on the internet. Everything, people share it in social media. So start doing things that you enjoy. Start creating, building the building blocks, the foundation while you're in school, while in the university. Now, what I see is a lot of time when I mentor young people, young graduates about employability. Then they came after finishing their degree, then they came to me and say, so Dr. Maha, now I've got a degree in microbiology. So what should I do? Now I go like, how can I tell you what to do? It's your life. I can't tell you go and work in a hospital. I can't tell you go and work in a food industry. It's your career. And it has to be based on your skill, your desire, your aspiration. Where do you want to see yourself? What are your weaknesses that you don't like to do? So it has to be you. You have to give me some options and say, hey, I'm thinking about this. What do you think? How can I go about this? So the pointer should come from you and not me just telling you, go to the schools and teach, go to the hospitals and do microbiological tests. So how do you do that? So you have to expose yourself while in college to the network. whether the network is your training network, your microbiology, engineering, HR, whatever your skills, your program, your degree is, or go beyond and look at all the other things as well, so that you can see where you fit into this world. What are the strengths that you need to acquire? What are your weaknesses that you need to work on? So nothing waits. If we wait, we will be waiting until one finishes, and then we want to start anything, the world is not waiting for us. I did my PhD when my children were 2 years old and 3 years old, and things were just simultaneously going. PhD, travel, work, my everything was just concurrently working on. So to me, I don't wait for anything, because nothing waits for us. So that is one message that I want to give you. Now, I'm sure all of you have heard this, that 65% of today's 12-year-old kids, including youth like you, are going to go into a job or sector that does not exist. Now, all of you will be thinking, wow, I did accountancy and it's all automated. Now, where do I go? So I'm going to be working in a field that is not in existence. So how do I know where I'm going to go? How do I know that thing that is non-existent? How do I know what are the skills they need? So how can I prepare myself? I tell you, there's no such thing. I don't believe in this at all. And because everyone, no matter they're baby boomers, X generation like me, we have been put into things that was never in existence. I became a science communicator. When I was born, there was nothing called science communication. When I was doing my master's, there was nothing called science communication in Malaysia. Until today, science communication is something new in Malaysia and in many developing countries. I pioneered it. So don't think that only you are put into this situation. All of us, baby boomers, when the steam engine, the first industrial revolution from steam engine to electricity, they had to transform from their traditional jobs to something that was new job, from electricity to internet, from internet to IoT. So don't think you are the only one. I completely don't agree with this. Every generation, new things came up, and we just dived in. We just learned, we transformed ourselves, we applied what we learned and shaped everything so that we could thrive. So it is the same for you. So don't get worried about all these things. Just dive in and you will know how to swim. Now, I'm not sure how many of you have seen this. This is my favorite, where I always tell anyone, whether anyone, it could be women's group, it could be youth, it could be anyone, students, that we all feel safe and sound and comfortable in our comfort zone. No one wants to leave the comfort zone. But I'm always thinking, okay, we always like comfort zone, but how can we make our comfort zone bigger so everything becomes our comfort zone? Of course, it's not possible to make everything comfort zone, but we can always enlarge our comfort zone. So what I would say is, I always say there's two baskets. One is your comfort zone, what you can do, what you're comfortable, what you're confident, you feel easy. The other one is your fear. So take at every month, every time, give a time frame, take something from your fear zone and say, I'm not good in English, for example. I'm not good in public speaking. Take that and I say, I'm going to now take this and slowly work on it so that I can put it into my comfort basket. So work on that. Now, if you keep doing that, what's going to happen? When you move from your comfort zone, you're moving into your fear zone. Of course, you will feel lack of confidence. Until today, don't think people like us are confident. You can just throw anything on us, we feel confident. We only fake it. We show you that, oh yeah, I will do it. When our boss gives us something, when another collaborator say, Maha, you know what, can you do this project? I fake it and I say, oh yeah, I can do it. Yes, let me. Then I get into my fear zone. There'll be lack of confidence. I'll say, should I take this? Should I find an excuse? All this happens to anyone. Don't think it only happens to you because you're young, you're fresh, you've got no experience. It happens to us as well. But the difference is we say, no, I am going to move on. So, and then we've asked, hey, you know what? This person gave me this project. Do you think I should do it? And some naysayers will say, Maha, why do you want to go into all these things? It's so difficult. Do what you feel comfortable. But some, of course, the good ones will say, Maha, take it. If you need support, let me know. So that is your fear zone. Now, I go into fear zone all the time because I take new things all the time. I self-inflict new things on me all the time. So the thing is to move from fear zone, gather your courage, gather your stamina, your grit, and tell yourself you're going to do it. Learn, meet people, find your resources, and then go into the learning zone. That is where you are going into the learning zone. You find the resources, deal with the challenges. How do I do with it? How do I acquire? I need new skills to take this up. Okay, I will learn this. Now extend your comfort zone. And then finally, when you're comfortable, that becomes your another comfort zone. That is your growth. In fact, more than your comfort zone, that's your growth zone, because now you've found something else that you could do. You have got a dream that you always wanted to do. Now you have achieved it. You have got now set new goals. Now you can conquer your objectives and keep moving. So keep taking from your fear zone, fear basket, and slowly move that into your comfort basket. And as you do that, this is going to become full. This is going to become empty. So what do you do? Oh, now I'm so good. I'm the best in the world. I can do everything. No, fill in your fear basket now. Take in what you think that you didn't need to do. Take in new things and put it into the fear basket. So you keep yourself busy. Okay. So we're talking about the new normals. We're talking about the pandemic. What did you do during the pandemic? I started always the first. Remember the first. I have this first disease. So I started the Science Media Center in Malaysia within 2 weeks, and you can go to sciencemediacenter.com, sciencemediacentermalaysia.com. We started it within 2 weeks, and it's now up and running, where we want to link scientists and journalists. So what did I do during COVID? I started working during, I think it's unhealthy. You should not listen to me on this. Please have, go relax on this. I work on all time zone now. From morning till 5 o'clock, I work on a Malaysian time zone, and then I work on an Indian time zone. Then I move west to west until I work on America's time zone until midnight. It's getting too much. But then I also will tell people, if you're worried about working, if you want to work on a 9-hour, 8-hour job, then you have to settle for a supporting staff job. And I'm very serious about this. If you want to complain, it's too much of work. Why are you calling me after 5? Then you are a support staff. You can do administration, you can do clerical job, you can do a junior executive. But no CEO works until 5 and then say no phone calls, no emails. Yes, we shut down for a while, but then we take vacations, we take time off, but then there's no such thing as my lines are only working until 5 in the evening. No, if you want to go up, then you have to move to your fear zone, and you keep learning, you keep working. But as I said, I'm sure millennials now, you want to have, I'll come to that as well, work-life balance, work-life integration. So ask yourself, what did you do during this COVID lockdown? There was Coursera, a lot of courses from Ivy League colleges, universities that offered courses, and you could pay a little bit to get a certificate. Did you do that? Did you learn new things? Did you read a book? It's just, to me, the pandemic, yes, it's a very bad thing, unprecedented time, very bad for economy, very bad for social and everything. But then it provided time for us to do so many things that we never did before. And I did a lot of things during COVID-19. Now, social media. For my age, I'm very active on social media. I've got a Facebook, Instagram, of course, WhatsApp is official. I've got, what else? I've got Twitter, LinkedIn. I'm very, very active on social media. I'm sure all of you are. But the question is, what do you use your social media for? Now, I see a lot of selfies. But then I don't really, Facebook, I don't go to anyone's Facebook, but Instagram just comes up. You see, Instagram just pops up, and I can spend, frankly, I'm not embarrassed to say this, I can spend my whole day on Instagram. You know why? There's just so much, and I go to all the useful facts and motivation, natural, holistic, and science, and it's just so much of things that you can learn from Instagram, and I can just really spend the whole day. But once in a while, things like selfies and all kind of things pop up, and I'll be thinking, what's the message behind this? What are they trying to say? Are they trying to get the directors from Hollywood to contact them for the next movie, or are they trying to get some modeling companies to contact them for as models? But I don't know. But then for me, my social media is for people to say, hey, Maha, you're doing great job. Can we collaborate? Can you give a talk on this? So my social media is for my self-branding, to show that, look, there is a person called Maha in this space of biotechnology, science communication, and I want to grow, I want to collaborate, you can call me, I want to provide service, I want to learn. So it's self-branding for me. And for me to invite, attract collaborators, attract funding, attract new projects. So that is what I use my social media. Now, I think, you know, you all are lucky, because my time, there was no social media. No one, you know, it's so difficult for us to put ourselves up there and make ourselves visible. And I think today social media is providing such a excellent platform where you can self-brand, market yourself for all the good purposes. So please use social media for the right purpose. And remember, employers are going to social media to see who you are, to get that additional extra X factor information about you, whether we should employ you or not. Is it fair or not? I don't know, but social media is public. If once we put anything on the public, you can't say, hey, why did you see my social media? Hello, it is public. That is why it's called social, and that is why it's called media. Media is public unless you close it and say this is only for my close friends. So employers are doing it. So this is the best opportunity to put ourselves there for people to know what values we bring. To show that we are opinionated, to show that I'm an avid reader, to show that I've got knowledge in many areas. Now, but you could also use this and then get into depression, like the previous talk that I came in. And you can start comparing and say, hey, that person is in a better university, that person has got a better life, it's always going out, and why is my life like this? So, you know, everything has got a dual purpose. It's all how we see things, which perspective, through which lens we see things. So it is up to you. Now, connecting the dots. And I feel a lot of people, young graduates I talk these days, interns are not able to connect the dots. And this is where you don't see the bigger picture. Now, what I do is every time I go overseas, I will make sure that when I come back, there is an impact from my overseas trip. And all the time there will be someone who calls me, I call them, and something comes up from there. So something must be always brewing from whatever I do. And that has always happened. So how does it happen? Because when someone talks about, it doesn't have to be, I meet someone in biotechnology or science communication. That person can be completely in a different field, but then how I see what they do connects to what I do, or what they do becomes something that I can adapt, I can emulate, although it's completely two different fields, and how I can connect the dots. So this is what I say about connecting the dots. You know, nothing is there in a remote silo. Everything has got a connection. Can we connect the dots? If you see, many successful people are not in their field. They have done accountancy and they're completely in a different field, done science and completely in a supply management and whatever. So how did they do it? Because they are able to connect the dots. Whatever they've studied in something else, they are able to apply that and connect the dots and apply it in their new field. So this is what I say about connecting dots. And to connect dots, we must read a lot, we must talk to people, we must have a wide network, we must see the bigger picture. So all these things happens when we have an open mind, and our mind is able to absorb things and see how everything interacts with everything else. Now, we always hear about one generation complaining about the other generation. I personally get into fights and arguments with my children as well when I complain about them. But all these things, you know, is bound to happen. But I personally, honestly, I feel every generation has done so much. Every generation brings in different values, different strength, has done different mistakes. But the thing is now, how do we work together? Even for me, how do I work with the Gen Z and millennials who are coming into my office as young staff, as interns, as my students? So what we need to do is, for me, from Gen X, I need to learn about millennials and Gen Z and how to see where they're coming from. How can we meet in the middle point? So for you, when you go into your work, some of you might be working, you will be working with two different generations. Gen Z is what you are, and you're working with millennials and Gen X. So, and I still work with baby boomers as well. my chair, my board members, and a lot of people I work with are baby boomers as well. And I actually have problem in giving them new ideas as well. So how do we negotiate? How do we show them to see things in our perspective? This requires communication skills, but with supported strongly with facts, so that we can convince them. Requires a lot of tolerance, requires a lot of understanding, a lot of communication. So, get used to working with different people. It's so important. You can't run away. And I think sometimes you will even end up working with a baby boomer, because if my chair is a baby boomer, my staff, my young staff, has to still sometimes listen to my chair. So these are the challenges, but I think the opportunity, look at the positive side. There's just so much we can learn. We can learn so much from all of you, young people. And I'm still learning a lot about social media and technology from young people, new ideas. So it is two-way street. Another thing I strongly believe, and which I can vouch 200% based on my journey, is don't ever hope that someone will put in a platter and give you a dream career. There's no such thing that the dream career is there and you just have to grab it. Every employer only offers you a job where they give you a task, and then the task translates into a monthly salary. Now, how do you take that job and then shape that job, change it, learn, reskill, unskill, upskill, and do all kind of things so that you can take that job and change it into a career? And once you think, this is my career, because job, like for example, I struggled a journey of 7 years until I found a career. Until before that, I was just doing jobs in different companies and say, no, not this one. No, I don't think this is my calling. No, not challenging enough. Not my passion. So how do you move from job? And then once you find a career, that's not enough, because you can also settle with a career and say, yeah, now I found a career. It's my field and I really enjoy it. But then how do you make it into a dream career? So you shape it into a dream career. And now I can tell that I have a dream career, although it is challenging, time consuming, but I enjoy it. It could be really struggling, but every struggle I really enjoy because it makes my adrenaline rush. And then when I accomplish it, I say, I've done it. So from job, turn your job into a career, turn your career into a dream career. It's not easy, but it's certainly possible, and many people have done it. But then some people have also settled down for a job throughout their life. Job, okay, not happy. As long as I make my ends meet and I've got it, they've also settled. I've seen many people retired with a job. So ask yourself whether you want a job or you want a career, or you want a career that becomes your dream career. So here comes work-life balance. Not easy. If you want to be a support staff, yes, 5 o'clock shutdown, Saturday, Sunday, nothing, you can do that. But then if you want to go higher and higher, it requires more commitments, more time. So I'm a strong believer of not work-life balance, but work-life integration, because I find work-life balance is difficult for me. I can't draw a line and say, okay, shut down. That's my roosters, roosters from my neighbor's pet roosters. So for me, is work-life integration, because I can't shut down and say, that's it. If my African director calls and say, no, it's 6 o'clock now, I can't talk to you. I can't do that. So to me, it's work-life integration. So how can I integrate seamlessly? How can I steam a fish and at the same time start typing something, and then 15 minutes later, I go and look at my fish. Is it okay? It's done, put it there, and then come back and type things. So I believe in work-life integration. Take my children for conferences where they can be happy, and in the evening we go together. Daytime they do more, they explore the country more than what I've done, which I think is not fair, but that's life. So but then, as I said, don't take everything what I'm saying. Work out something that will work for you. It's not that because I've done this you should be doing that. No, work something that works well for you. Gender equality, something that all of us, I'm sure, are passionate about. I'm certainly a feminist, but not a feminazi. I think it should also go on merit, and men should be appreciated, because a lot of time in my career, in my family, many men have supported me, whether it's my father, my brothers. my husband, my bosses, most of them were men, and without them, I wouldn't be what I'm doing today. But it is also important that women must be empowered. Women must always be able to stand on their feet. Men must support this, women must support men. So I think it's really complementary. It goes both ways. Increasingly, it is important for women to have the leadership role, because it is important to see in different perspectives. So we need both genders to be on the table, to see different perspectives. So I think it's very important to support each other, and also it's very important to give the additional edge for women, because we have been left behind. That's the truth. No one can deny that. Even to get voting rights, we got it so late. Until today, students, graduates tell me that, Maha, you know what, my father is forcing me to take up this career, but I like the other sector, but my brother gets to choose what he wants. It is happening right now. So we need to be aware of all these things. And to women, I think it is women, as much as we talk about gender equality, women should stop the visual cycle. A lot of my friends in my generation who were graduates, engineers, and so on, they say, okay, now, you know, I left my career because I want to take care of my family. Now I ask them, why do you want to take care of your family? Because I want to give the best to my children. It's so important. They must study. I want them the best for my children. Well, you give the best for your children, sacrificing your engineering degree and your overseas degree and your training and everything. But then your daughter is going to also will want to give the best to her daughter, and she will also stop work. Now, why do I want to sacrifice my PhD for my daughter to be a housewife? If I knew my daughter was going to be a housewife, I would have pursued my career. So I think it's completely unfair. You call me anything you want. I know this is controversial, but this is my strong thing, that women should do something. You don't have to be a CEO. You don't have to have a office. You don't have to have a room, whatever. You can do so many things. If you think you want to strike a balance, you can do so many things from home, and with social media, with all this digital, virtual, whatever, you can just do so many things at home. I don't know how many of you know. Maybe, of course, I don't think anyone knew. During lockdown, my daughter came up to me and say, Ma, Ramadan, I want to start, can you cook? I want to sell. Through all this virtual bazaar. So, you know, me being always like putting them in the dark, deep ocean, I said, okay. And I was so busy, yet I said, okay, you sure you can do? You think we can do? So I said, let us do it. We will do it. So I cooked a vada, I cooked kesari, I cooked mee goreng, I did all kind of things, and we sold in Ramadan Bazaar. So yes, we made money. I mean, it is not so much about the money, but the experience, doing things together and exploring. So you see, there's so many things women can do from home, and nothing is stopping us. You can have a degree, and I always say, if I happen to retire and I really don't want to travel anymore, I don't mind selling vada under a tree. So if next time if you see me selling vada, hey, that's Dr. Maha selling vada, please come and support me and buy my vada. I think we can just do so many things, and there's nothing wrong with anything that's decent in life. So coming back to that, the visual cycle, what I mean is, when you stop working because of a child, your child is going to stop working because of her child, and the cycle never comes back. And your son is going to see, hey, Amma's job is actually scrubbing bathroom, cleaning, cooking. So my wife is supposed to be doing the same thing. So this is what I call a vicious cycle. I think women should stand up and show we can do so many other things. So for me, what do I do? So I always say, you know, I always get this thing about people saying, you know, I'm a housewife, it's just a full-time job. Hello, I'm a housewife too. Just because I've got so many roles does not mean I'm not a housewife. I'm a housewife. I've got a role to play as a wife. I've got a role to play as a mother. And these are some of the roles that I play. And the top 3 are my full-time job, global coordinator for an international not-for-profit organization that covers Asia until Latin Americas. And as if it is not enough, I'm setting up 2 new regional offices in Latin America and in the Arab region. And I'm the executive director for Malaysian Biotechnology Information Center. I'm the editor-in-chief for the Petri Dish. Please go and look out for the Petri Dish. www.thepetroddish.my. I'm a UN, United Nations consultant for FAO project in Sri Lanka. I'm an adjunct lecturer for 2 universities. I sit on the industry advisory panel for at least 6 universities, and they come up with documents like these and say, oh, now we have to review our curriculum. Can you read this and come back with reports? So we do all those things. I advise the Selangor government on developing biotechnology as an economy sector. I'm a speaker around the world, and I give motivation talk like this. Is nothing to do with my job, nothing to do with biotechnology. Yet, just because this slot is available, I take it, although the preparation time is long, but I still say, yes, I need to give back something to the community. And got 2 teenage daughters. They're not teenagers, actually they're 21 this year. Wife, daughter, friend, so many things. Yet I am also a housewife. So when people say I don't have time, okay, I can't take that. It's not fair, because it all how you use the time. So with that, I think I have time. The host can tell me if I have time, but I wanted to keep it like this because I want more interaction with all of you. I want to share more things. It's not about what I want to tell you, but what you want to ask me and the information that you want from me. So let's keep that open. I'm open to having questions, comments, anything. Thank you very much. I'm going to stop sharing.
Thank you so much, Dr. Maha, for your wonderful sharing. Definitely appreciate. Can we open the floor now for Q&A? So let's just do this right now. Hang on, just give me 1 minute. I can't open the chat box. All right, so Q&A is now open. We'll start the Q&A session right now. So anyone who has a question, please pop it in the chat box, and I will direct it to Dr. Maha straight away. So yeah, feel free to ask questions. Or is there anyone who would like to speak directly? We'll unmute you. You can just raise your hand and then the host will unmute you.
I was expecting a lot of questions from this group. I thought this group is like more confident.
Oh, okay. Yep, we have one. Hang on. Let me unmute him. Okay. So we have okay, Jaden. Yep.
Hello, Dr. Maha. Can I ask you if we are actually interested in both courses? Like example, I like psychology and language. Which one should I choose? Because I sometimes have problems in finding what I like. Because I like both. So which one should I pursue more?
Psychology and what did you say?
TESOL, teaching English as second language.
You have not taken up a degree program yet, is it?
I already chosen to enroll in the Institute of Teaching for English TESOL.
So I was thinking all of you are in the university, so you have not entered the university yet.
Yeah, just starting the foundation year.
Okay, now it's very difficult for me to answer this question. Like what I said, you can't, it's not fair for me to just say, how do I decide which is good for you? Because it will depend on what are you good at, and what do you see yourself as, and what are the prospects there is in TESOL and also in psychology, and do you like what is out there in TESOL and psychology? So you have to ask these questions. Now, psychology is a very, very interesting field. It's something that's really required, in demand, because basically, I personally think everyone has got some problem, one another. Some are clinical, some are just like, I am so impatient. And I think, when I go into a shopping mall, I just feel so stressed. I feel like, what are all these people doing? Why so many people here? Why can I walk faster? And so I feel so stressed. And so I think it is a field that even non-clinical people like me, non-clinical patients, might want to get some help as well. So, but you have to ask yourself, Jaden, is it? You have to ask yourself, what are you going to do? Now, TESOL, there's so much of openings for TESOL as well. Now, TESOL is not just being teaching. It could be PR, media, advertising agency, special officers. You can do so many things with TESOL. See, remember what I said about connecting the dots? This is what I meant about connecting the dots. Are you able to connect the dots? When you see TESOL, everyone, oh, you want to become a teacher. No, you can be a journalist. You can work in an embassy. You can work in United Nations. or many things you can even work. I don't know how interpreters do things. If your English is good, if another language is good, can you interpret? So there's just so many things that you could do. So this is where, you know, young people like you should read a lot, should talk a lot to many people, to understand all these things. Then you say, now I understand, I want to do psychology, or I want to do this. So I don't think I have an answer for you, but I hope I opened your mind.
Yeah, thank you, Dr.
It's not about giving answer. To me, it's about opening your mind. So I've got a few questions here. How do you balance, Yi Chen, how do you balance confidence and arrogance? When I hear your piece, now this is where you can, you know, it is a thin line between confidence and arrogance, because you want to show your confidence sometimes, especially in our culture. When you are confident, people don't like you. And even in schools, you know, I wanted to bring this up, and I'm glad that you are talking about this. When students ask questions, she must always ask lah, must show lah that she's smart. Actually, my daughter has this problem all the time. When she asks question, again lah, she lah. But my daughter will say, I really don't understand, I need to ask. And then when I ask, the lecturer explains, everyone else say, now I understand. But no one wants to ask, because they all will think the person who asks is the person who will be seen as nerd, the person who seeks attention, which is completely untrue. And this is our culture. I'm sure many of you have gone through this yourself, have seen this. So please don't label people who ask questions. And we always say there's no stupid questions. And those people who are asking are the ones who are thinking, you know. So how do you, yes, as I said, our culture, when we are confident, yalla, she wants to show off. So confidence is where you speak, but you still respect others, their perspective, respect your audience who don't know things, and you are tolerant to someone who are not in the same page. You want to explain. Arrogance is when you push and you say, I'm the only one who know this. I'm the only one who can solve this. You know, the word I have problems with some people when they say, I did this. I am the only one. I cleared up everything. So we have problem with this, and this type of people, very difficult to work in a team. So this is arrogance. Only I can solve this. Only I can do this. Only I brought this. So confidence is, we can do this. We is confidence. I is arrogance. I think I can say that. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Shall I go on with the next question, Avnesh?
Yep. Just feel free to answer the last two questions. Yep.
Okay. So Faris Durrani is asking, Dr. Maha, do you think it's more important for us to work on our weakness and or to improve our strength? I think both are important. Strength is something that you already have, but I would say all of us are busy people, including you. And you can't be saying that I want to do everything. Priority is the key. So priority is for weakness, I would say. Yeah. Work on your weakness, because strength is already there. It's easier to go the next level. From strength to strength is easier. From weakness to strength is a bigger gap. So work on your strength. Sarah Ng, how do you avoid burnt out when you have aspiration? Today I was actually burnt out. I sat there and I said, oh my God, I've got so many things to do. And you know, burnt out is when you've got so many things to do, multiple things concurrently. I always imagine this. On top of me, there are so many bubbles. Some are big bubbles, some are small bubbles, some are screaming bubbles in red with flares, some are quietly hidden bubbles. What do they mean? The big bubbles are telling me, this is priority. You need to finish this because someone is waiting. Your boss is waiting. That agency is waiting. The small bubbles can wait. Hidden bubbles are something that I want to do, I need to do, but I'll do it when I really have the time. The flare, the red flare with flame and with smoky ones is someone is really waiting and screaming and angry with me, and I really need to finish this now. So I always, and you know, when I feel burnt out, I pick what I need to do first. And then when I'm done with that, one bubble gone. But of course, another bubble comes in from somewhere else. Some bubbles keep coming in. Burnt out today, as I said, seriously, I feel burnt out. And I think it's so important for people like me to really share the things that we go through, the struggle that we go through, instead of just painting the rosy picture and say, everything is good, you all should be able to do it as well. Why can't you do it? I think that's not going to work. We should tell you where we have failed, how many scars we have. So today I woke up, I've got so many things to do, and I always have so many things to do. And I said, which one to do now? Now I said, okay, the Sri Lanka thing can wait because I've done half of it. I'll send them, let them work on it. But this one needs to be done. So but that one is really technical, highly technical. No matter how much I am in microbiology, but that immunity and seroprevalence and all these things I need to read. So I just opened some things and I say, actually not. I understand. It was just that I always thought I was putting it because it's so technical. I'll do it later. There's so much to read. I'll do it later. But when I really, I've always find it. There are things that gives you fear. How am I going to do it? How am I going to do it? My thesis, my final year project. But when you start, then say, hey, actually I can decipher. I can break it into smaller pieces. Now it looks doable. So that is how one way to avoid burnt out. Now the other one is the motivation. Yes, I feel down, but pick up yourself and what motivates you. The sense of accomplishment, the sense of finishing it. What do you get after finishing it? So all these things, and of course take a break as well. It's so important. Take a break and say, I want to, like yesterday. Nowadays I go for walking and in the park. I do exercise, and that really gives me a break away from my daily very hectic schedule. So you need to find out, bake a cake if you like baking, cook, go out, meet your friends, do gardening, go for a movie. So do things like that. Find out what you love doing, and do that. Okay, questionnaire closed.
Okay, Dr. Maha, I think Jaden has a direct question to you. That's the last one.
Okay.
I'll just unmute Jaden for you. Hang on. Where's Jaden? Okay, Jaden, I unmuted you.
Right. Dr. Maha, can I ask you, like here, like now this era got a lot of different types of students, right? Like sometimes when we meet like highly intellectual students, like we sometimes have a knowledge gap. Like we don't know how to communicate with them, but we want to be friends with them. Because sometimes I encounter this problem. And then how we want to motivate ourselves like to be like them also. Because sometimes I don't know, like I want to be friends with them, but I don't know how to talk with them because they are talking the things that I don't clearly understand.
I don't know if I've got an answer, but then this is not just these days. There are different types of students all the time. But one thing I want to tell you, just because they're highly intellectual doesn't mean they're highly intellectual. For 10 years down the road, you will be somewhere and they will be somewhere. Let me tell you, the intellectual is good. Anything positive is certainly positive. But the world is not just operating in that mode. Just like 4 flat, okay, you get all the CEO position, the senior position, and then a 2 point something and 3 point something, you get all the lower level. It doesn't work that way. The world is so multifaceted, multicolored, multifactorial. So have that as your motivation. Yes, I'm not as good as them, but still, what are my skills? Now, how can you bring your skill to that group of highly intellectual students? They may be very intellectual. They can understand, decipher concepts and Einstein theories and psychology theories and cognitives and all those things. But then maybe you're good in presentation. Maybe you can present in a better way. So you can say, hey, look, you guys are really good. I'm not as good as this, but then I can speak. Public speaking, I can do that. Why don't we work together? I learn from you, you learn from me, and I can present to the group. So bring in your values to the table. I'm sure everyone has got a value. Every child has got a value. Either you identify the value or someone else must help you to identify your value, your teachers, your friends, your parents, or you yourself. So do that and then bring your value and say, and I think it's also important that we are open about it, that any highly intellectual students in this group, please appreciate that the others have value as well, and take them and see how you can leverage on them, because there's no one person that's good in everything. It's just impossible that I'm highly intellectual. I can also do public speaking. I can also do presentation. I can also talk to people. I can also network. I can also go fundraise. No, there's no one person. So bring your value to the table and be inclusive. Whoever you are, be inclusive. See how you can work together in a team, and say, don't feel threatened. That is one thing. And the problem is not only students, even bosses feel threatened. Hey, I'm not good in computer. If I take him, if I hire him, now he will outshine me. That's not good. I must take someone who's not as good as me. Now that is really, I think that's really foolish, because if I take someone who is good in computers, then that person is going to help me to make my work better. So I think that's very important. So find your value, and put your value on the table. I hope, Jaden, that answered your question.
Yeah, but there's sometimes like they are already good in this area, like maths. They actually find the other like is a better person who is good in that subject, and actually we are friends with the person, but we are like no longer like still very close like that. Because sometimes they mix a lot with other very pro person. So I sometimes feel like that, like sometimes a conflict, like how I want to be like them like that.
Okay.
Because we are like the distance of friendship is like much more like further already.
Yeah, and I mean, there's no easy answer to this. Another thing is they might be good in maths. Do you have another subject that you might be good in? And then you say, okay, for this, you help me with maths. For this, we still work in a group. And for this subject, I can help you. So that's what I'm saying. Find some common areas where it's mutualistic. You bring some values and they bring some values. So this is where the soft skills, the EQ comes in. It's not IQ, but the EQ comes in to show how you can also mingle with everyone and get into different groups, different networks. So this is where EQ comes in.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Maha.
Thank you, Jaden. All the best.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Maha, for being with us on your Sunday afternoon. We do appreciate whatever you have passed on to us. And on behalf of MSGA, we would like to wish you thank you so much and also all the best.
Thank you very much. And thank you for calling me in for the final closing session. And I really hope, I'm sure you had all this event was going on so well with the bank. So I hope mine, the final one was like, it's not an anticlimax.
No, we literally reserved the best one for the last, so it's fine. All
Thank
good.
you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Maha.
All the best. Bye.
Yeah, bye. All right. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to proceed with our closing for the summit. I'll just get the host to share the screen. All right, so let us now proceed to our closing remarks by Dr. Elizabeth Lee. So Dr. Elizabeth can't be with us here today, but she has sent us a video for our closing ceremony. So let us all sit back, relax, and watch the video. All right.
Hello and good morning, everyone. Selamat Hari Merdeka or Hari Kebangsaan. In the spirit of Merdeka, the theme of this year's MSGA Summit, Kita Anak Malaysia. I urge you all to stand tall and be proud of being Malaysians. Only by standing united can we overcome this challenging time. Challenging time of much anxiety and uncertainty. We have done it before, 63 years ago to be precise, as one nationality, together. And we can now, kita jaga kita, and get through this together as satu negara dan satu bangsa Malaysia. To all our young people here, today, be proud to be Malaysian. Our country is a unique melting pot of cultures and customs to keep the peace, to live in harmony and unity. We need to stand together, not just through this challenging time, but for all time. The future of our nation belongs to you. The future of this country is in your hands. You need to step up, be responsible, honest, and respectful citizens. Look at the broader picture. embrace democracy, learn, understand, and appreciate the values and customs of our fellow citizens of other races, ethnic groups, cultures, and of course, religious beliefs. All areas of our country's growth depend on this, whether it is political, social, or economic growth. Let us not have our country in chaos where riots and the killing of people can happen on a daily basis, as we know it does in some countries. Battling the pandemic is bad enough. You, our youth, must do away with prejudice, hatred, and racism in order for our country to move forward. I believe in our hearts we all share the same hopes, the same dreams for ourselves as well as for our country. As our young people, you all have the power and the opportunity to help transform our nation to be better through positive changes and through good values. And remember, diversity is truly our strength. In all of this, education, of course, plays an important role. Schools and higher education institutions, such as Sunway, each have our roles to play in educating and nurturing the young to be responsible citizens. However, the decision to do the right thing as responsible Malaysians lie in your hands. Ladies and gentlemen, did you know there is a song called Kita Anak Malaysia? It's by a group known as Khalifa. Please allow me to share with you an excerpt from the song. I won't sing it, don't worry, but shall instead recite it here. Oh tanah kita, kita semua anak Malaysia, pelbagai suku dan bangsa, hidup beragama, kaya dengan budaya. Kita anak Malaysia, Melayu, Cina, dan India. Bangsa di Sabah, Sarawak juga. Kita milik Malaysia. Malaysia milik kita. Dear young hopes of Malaysia, as we celebrate our nation's Independence Day tomorrow, I would like to ask all of you to take a moment or two and think about what you can do for our country. Selamat Hari Kebangsaan, everyone. Thank you and God bless you, Malaysia and Malaysians.
Thank you, Dr. Elizabeth, for the wonderful speech. Now we will proceed with our closing remark by the Secretary General of Malaysian Student Global Alliance, MSGA, by Mr. Arthur Yeo. I'd like to invite Mr. Arthur Yeo to give his closing remarks.
Hi there, everyone. Awesome. Thank you so much, all of you for joining. Salam hormat dan salam sejahtera. This summit has been a flagship event for the Malaysian Students Global Alliance since our formation in 2016, and we have been growing ever since. This year, we're definitely thrilled to be able to welcome such a diverse lineup of speakers from various backgrounds, ethnicity, and culture, while discussing a myriad of topics ranging from employability, refugee rights, and mental health. This event would not have been possible at all without the strong support of our stakeholders. I would like to take this opportunity to thank our member councils, especially for those who hosted a parallel session with other organizations such as the Council Movement. I would like to thank our sponsors, especially RHB Bank and Sunway University, for their strong and unwavering support. We believe that this is a testimony where corporate partners are able to partake in these efforts to develop our youth and demonstrate their corporate citizenship. I would like to also further thank our strong lineup of speakers, and because our speakers come from a wide variety of backgrounds that relate to our youth, while each of them are making waves in their own fields. I really want to thank you and all of you for placing your trust in our platforms to raise these issues that are important to youth today. Last but not least, I would like to thank all our participants for attending today. We appreciate the time that you've taken off your schedule to attend any part of our summit, regardless if you've attended 1, 2, or even all 3 of these days. Without this dedication to the cause, our efforts would have been futile in creating a platform for Malaysian youths to partake in discussions that would shape the future of Malaysia. This pandemic has forced many of us to switch gears halfway during the planning process, where we had to switch from originally what was supposed to be a physical event to a full online delivery mode. I really want to take this opportunity to thank my team, especially the flagship advocacy team, who have yet again managed to break records for the 4th year running in terms of registrations and participation. It is to my fervent hope and our fervent hope as MSGA that the summit is not just an event to attend and be inspired. We further hope that you and everyone can take away something from this event and be leaders in your own community to make active change for the betterment of our country. As a global organization representing more than 80,000 Malaysian students across the globe, no matter where we are in the world, our heart beats as one for Malaysia. And this is perhaps apt as we approach Merdeka, where the celebration of our youth diversity is seen through this event. Di mana jua kita di perantauan, hati tetap berdetak untuk tanah air tercinta. Selamat Hari Merdeka dan Selamat Hari Malaysia. Thank you again and have a good rest of the weekend. Thank you.
Thank you, Arthur, for the wonderful and dedicating speech. All right, so this sums up for our summit. But before that, let's all take a group photo. So let's all on our webcams and get ready for a group photo.
All right, guys, I would like to have everyone to, open their webcams. Let me just double check if everyone's ready. All right, participants. Okay, guys, we're gonna take a photo in 1, 2, 3. Okay, let me do another one. 1, 2, 3, and last one. Smile really well, please. 1, 2, 3. All right, thank you very much for your photos and your smiles. All right, back to you, Avnish.
Thanks, Amin, for that. All right, thank you so much, everyone, for being with us here. For those who are not here today with us and will be watching the recording later on, thank you so much for being with us throughout these 3 days. For those who had been with us since day one, thank you so much for your dedication, for taking your time out and being with us here for our summit. Thank you so much to all the speakers. Thank you to the organizers. Thank you to my team, the tech team. Thank you so much. All right, so without further ado, I would just like to give a last announcement. Your e-certs will be sent through in about a few days. Just watch out for your email. Check in your promotions tab as well. We might be sending it to your promotions tab, but otherwise, if it doesn't come into your mail in the next few days, just pop us a message and we will sort that out. Otherwise, if there's nothing much, we're all good to go. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys. Peace out.
Thank you.
All right, good job, everyone. Thank you for coming.
All right. See you guys. Bye-bye.
Bye. Goodbye, everyone.